Okay, this is problem number 13 on page 47. Delta Corporation is expected to pay the following dividends over the next 4 years. $6, $8, $3, and $1.80. Afterwards, the company pledges to maintain a 5% growth rate in dividends forever. So that's the constant dividend growth rate formula. If the required return on the stock is 14%, what is the current share price? Okay. This is how you solve this, and actually there's a nice way to use your BA2 calculator that makes this even a little bit easier, and we'll go over that too. Okay, so basically you've got 4 dividends that are different dividends. So you've got D1, which is $6, and they tell you that the required return rate is 14%. So you would take D1 over 1.14 to the first power, D2, which is 8 over 1.14 to the second power, D3, which is $3 over 1.14 to the third power, and D4, dividend 4, is $1.80 over 1.14 to the fourth power. And they also tell you that after that, the dividend is going to maintain a constant growth rate of 5%. So after $1.80, it's going to grow at 5% a year. And you need to price out all the rest of those dividends forever as they go on forever. That's where you use the constant dividend growth rate formula. So that's PT over DT plus 1 equals R minus G. So you need to figure out this first before you can get P0, because you've got these parts of it, but you need to figure out the price for dividend number 5. You know that it's going to be dividend number 5 because this is dividend number 4, right? So how do you get dividend number 5? Dividend number 4 times the growth rate they gave you, 1.05%. over R minus G. That'll give you, remember the formula, PT equals DT plus 1 over R minus G. So you know you need dividend number 5, so P is going to be P4, because this is T plus 1, that's T. Remember, you're discounting back, that's the next dividend, you're discounting back to the year before that. So you're going to be solving for P number 4, which will be right up here. That's the price in year 4 of the future dividend stream. So you go through and do your calculations. $1.80 times the growth rate they're telling you is going to grow at 5%, 1 plus the growth rate, over the required return minus the growth rate. The $1.89 over 0.909, which gives you $21 is the price in period 4. So P4 is 21. And since you've got to discount that back, that's the price in year 4, you've got to discount that back 4 years. So 1.14 to the fourth power. These are both discounting at the same 1.14 for the fourth power. So you can see that P0 equals 6 over 1.14 to the first, 8 over 1.14 to the second, 3 times 1.14 to the third, $1.80 over 1.14 to the fourth, and 21 over 1.14 to the fourth. So actually, if you wanted to, and what we'll do on the calculators, we're going to add these together. Add these two together because they're getting discounted for 4 years, both of them. So you can make this $22.80. Now you can go through the individual calculations. You have to do 6 over 1.14. Then you got to figure out 1.14 to the second, divide 8 by that, 1.14 to the third, and divide 3 by that, and so on and so forth. Once you get all those individual numbers, you can add them together and get $26.94. Or you can use your calculator and make your life a lot easier. The BA2 Plus has a nice function on it, and it's called the cash flow function. And basically you can take uneven cash flows, and then you can input those in your calculator and then put the required interest rate, and it'll calculate the price for you of $26.94. So we're going to go through that. But first, what you always want to do is clear your calculator. Always press second CE, and then second FV, because that's the second function is clear time value of money. And then you want to hit this cash flow button, CF, cash flow, and then second CE, because you want to clear all the old cash flow numbers that might have been stored in there. Remember, your calculator stores old numbers. So if you've got old numbers in there, that's going to be a problem when you go through and calculate everything. Okay, so let's go through and I'll show you how to do this. Now, CFO, cash flow 0, would be in year 0. You know that you don't have dividends in year 0. You have dividends starting in year 1. That's, you use CFO for CF0 for something else you don't need to know right now. Okay, and you use these up and down keys to move up and down on these cash flows. So you hit the down key and it goes to CO1, which is cash flow 1, which is the first dividend. So you put $6 is 6, and then you got to hit enter. If you don't hit enter, it won't enter the number in there. Okay, now you press the down arrow. F1 means what's the frequency of that $6? Well, you're only getting it 1 year, so 1 is the default, so it'll show up, and so you just press the down arrow. Now cash flow number 2. Cash flow number 2 is 8. So if we go through and push 8, now watch if I push the down arrow. It'll still ask you for FO2, the frequency O2, but what do we really have in there since I didn't hit enter? You got 0 in there. So it's 8, enter. Now you've got it in there because it'll show you all the decimal places behind. That's how you know you've put it in too. You hit the down arrow. What's the frequency of that $8 dividend for only 1 year? So you go down. The next is $3. 3, enter. Down arrow, the frequency. There's only one of those. Now if there have been 4 of them, you could put in 4. Like say for instance I put in 2 right now. Okay, and I hit enter. Okay, and then I go down to cash flow number 4. I go, oh, you know what? I messed up. That was the frequency is only supposed to be 1. You can go back up and then with the up arrow hit 1, enter, and then fix it. Okay, so now I go down to cash flow number 4, and that's $1.80. But remember, we had 2 things in cash flow 4 in year 4. We had the dividend and the price where we priced out the future dividends in that stream that went on with constant growth rate. So this is where I was telling you you're going to want to add these numbers together. $1.80 plus 21 is $22.80. Since they're both getting discounted for the same period of time, let's put them both into cash flow number 4. 22.8, enter. And how many of those do we have? Just 1. Okay, so now you can hit down arrow. It doesn't matter. There's no cash flow number 5. So what you want to do is you're trying to find the present value of all those streams of cash flows. In this case, we call it net present value for cash flows. So you hit net present value, and what it's going to do is ask you, what's the interest rate? And that's the required interest rate. Okay, so in this case we know it's 14%. 1.4, you got to hit enter. Okay, and then you hit the down arrow now, and it says net present value. So that should tell you what the present value is of all those cash flows. It's got 0 right now. That's because you got to hit compute. Once you hit compute, it gives you the number $26.94. $26.94. Now another nice feature is remember that this stores all the numbers you've put into the calculator. So say for instance you wanted to calculate it at 12% interest rate. You hit the up arrow, press 1, 2, enter, and then you press the down arrow, and it still has $26.94 even though we changed from 14% to 12%. What happened? Well, you didn't hit compute. You always, after you get, remember net present value originally came out as 0. Then we hit compute and it gave us $26.94 and all the spare change. Okay, this is just the number saved in net present value from the last time. Hit compute, and now with 12%, the net present value is $28.35. So if he gives you a problem with these cash flows and he just changes the required return, you can just go through and refigure it with the net present value. And you can change any of those cash flows too by arrowing back up, but you can't just arrow up to cash flows. It's going to stick you in the net present value and interesting. You got to go to cash flow, and now see those old numbers are saved in there, and you can go through and change those numbers also. So one thing to remember though, before each problem you hit cash flow and then you hit second CE. Okay, that clears that. Net present value gets cleared at the same time because that's part of the same function. Okay, so that is problem number 13 on page 47.